Hello, I am David Aigbona, and this is David Aigbona Ministries. Right, you are watching me on on YouTube, on Brighton, on whatever media or television. God bless you. I am David Aigbona, and this is David Aigbona Ministries, and I am going to be speaking briefly on the propaganda war going on. There is a war for your minds. The Bible says in Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, it says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And because they have rejected knowledge, I have rejected them from being priests." The Bible says, that actually says, because you have rejected knowledge, I have rejected you from being priests. So there are two sets of people mentioned. Those that are ignorant, it may not be their fault, and those that willfully reject information. As believers, we should not be ignorant. The Bible says we are not ignorant of the devil's devices. Now, something is going on around the world. The media outlets, even some alternative media outlets, are pushing an agenda, are pushing a narrative that is not true. In 1948, the US government passed a law that authorized the use of government propaganda, government controlled propaganda, government influenced propaganda on people outside the United States. And then, as at that time, it was restricted to outside the United States, but now it's not. In the 1950s, not 1950s, 1950s, 1960s, thereabout, there was this CIA man, Mr. Dulles. He was the director of the CIA at that time during the tenure of John F. Kennedy. He was CIA director. And John F. Kennedy fired him for his use of CIA influence over the Western media, over the American media, because John F. Kennedy wanted balanced reporting, objective reporting, so that the American people would decide on the issues affecting them. So while officially the use of propaganda was outside the United States, it was still going on within the United States, and it has been going on for so many years to get the people to think in a particular way. The average American is one of the most peaceful person on earth, but the US military is the most troublesome military on earth. I'm saying this, you may say, it's national security. National security, are you really sure about that? After 18 years in Afghanistan, America is negotiating with the Taliban. Those days we used to hear America does not negotiate with terrorists. But after 18 years fighting the Taliban has more territory than when America invaded. America is negotiating with the very Taliban. It's because the Americans are being fed with misinformation and disinformation. You see it in the Iraq war. Who is the terrorist? Today you fight with ISIS, tomorrow you fight against ISIS. Who is really benefiting from all these things? There's a military-industrial complex. The average American is the most peace-loving person and generous person on earth. I say it with experience and with knowledge. The average American is one of the most peaceful, peace-loving, and generous person on earth. Nicer than many other nations, let me not mention, but the US military is involved in more wars than any other nation. There's something wrong in that picture. The soldiers are fighting not knowing what is really pushing this war. We are told it's national security. There's a lot of rubbish out there. So in 2012, President Obama signed a law which was passed by Congress, the National Defense Authorization Act 2012, revised 2012. Every year the act is revised. it influences defense budget, what the money is used for, and other things. So, pardon the noise out there. So, 2012 National Defense Authorization Act. The act is revised every year. The one revised in 2012 gave power to the president and the military to detain American citizens without due process. So now the US military has the legal backing. The president has a legal backing to arrest without trial, hold someone without trial. People can be detained without trial for as long as the person arresting wishes. You have red flag laws where someone can just raise an accusation. I'm afraid of my neighbor. My neighbor has a gun and I feel my neighbor may kill me one day. No evidence, no complaint, and that neighbor's gun is taken away, confiscated, and the neighbor has to prove innocence. It makes no sense. You see these funny laws coming all around, but there is the law that is going to enable Christians to be arrested without reason. They just pick them from the street. You are a Christian, you are a terrorist, you are against the government. It's gonna happen. Don't kid yourself. Don't think that you are going to be raptured before it happens. It's happening already. You see, it's going on. The tribulation has begun. There will be a rapture. But it's not the way we were taught when we were growing up that, oh, everything will just be blissful and then 7 years to the end of time, the rapture takes place and then everything falls apart. The Bible says we're in the end times, that there will be trouble and that there will be tribulation. We are already in the tribulation period. We may not be in the last 4 years or last 7 years or last 3 years. We are already in the tribulation. This law now gives, and you see, whatever the United States is doing, it has been doing unofficially. And other nations, Canada, European nations are copying. So now the president and the military can actually arrest you for no reason. All right, it's legal. And then 2013 National Defense Authorization Act, it was then officially granted that the United States government should influence the media within the United States. The 1948 law was revised such that the US government can now influence and control the media within the United States of America. So 1948, it was restricted to outside the United States. Now, within the United States of America, the media is legally lying to you. Mainstream media is lying to you. Some alternative media are lying to you. It's to control you. It's to pass along a narrative so that you believe what they want you to believe. The time has come, believers, for you to stop soaking up Fox News and CNN. They are two wings of the same evil bird. They are both lying to you. They are creating an illusion of confrontation from two factions. These people work together, they eat together. The National Defense Authorization Act 2013 that legalized the use of propaganda within the United States to drive a narrative was sponsored in Congress by Mark Thornberry, who is a Republican from Texas, and Adam Smith. Adam Smith and Mark Thornberry. Adam Smith was a Democrat, or is a Democrat. It's called a Thornberry-Smith provision. Now, I think that's what it's called in one within the act anyway. They sponsored it, Republican and Democrat. This issue of Democrats want our guns, Republicans want wars. It's the same thing. They want your guns, they want wars. Why? To take the United States military outside the shores of the US, disarm the citizens, and then give room for the United Nations to overrun United States, while the US military is bogged down in wars thousands of miles away. The reason I was in one of my research, I discovered that one reason why the Japanese did not invade the US with ground troops is because they felt most Americans were armed. There were too many armed Americans. So they felt they were not going to deal with the conventional military alone. They were going to deal with armed militias, civilian militias. And so decided to keep a distance, just bomb and do some other stuff. So Americans beware. Fox News, CNN, MSB, all those channels that claim to be right-wing, conservative, evangelical. Look, most of these evangelical leaders have been compromised. They are pushing a New World Order narrative. The Bible says we are not ignorant of the devil's devices. So this is a message to believers. Hosea chapter 4 verse 6. It should not be our portion to be destroyed for lack of knowledge. If you reject knowledge, God will reject you from being used by Him. He does not use people who choose ignorance. He uses people who choose information. And that is why He says to those who reject knowledge, He says He will reject them from being priests unto Him. I am David Aigbona. It's nice speaking to you. This is David Aigbona Ministries. You could subscribe. I'm glad if you do subscribe to this channel if you've not done so before. Subscribe. You click on the bell notification sign. Either whichever way you're watching it, whichever media outlet, just subscribe so that you follow me for more information and teachings of the Word of God. God bless you and see you again.